Was my very first mowing tall grass video for free. Little did I know, guys, that yard would kick off this incredible journey I'm on. So let me tell you about the yard I tackled.
He starts the video with a smile, but there's something different in his eyes this time. A quiet heaviness, like he's carrying more than just a mower and a camera. Today's not one of those wild transformations, he says, voice steady but tired. It's something else, something I need to talk about. Within seconds, the usual upbeat energy fades, replaced by a tone that feels raw and almost uncomfortable. The kind that makes you lean in because you can sense that something dark is about to surface. The truth behind the screen, burnout no one sees, and the loneliness hidden under all the likes. It's not the kind of video his viewers expected, but it's the one they'll never forget. The sun hit differently that morning, warm yet heavy, like it was taking its time waking up. ARI stood there, hands in his pockets, watching the light crawl across a quiet yard. It wasn't one of those crazy, overgrown jungles he usually started his videos with. The grass was short and lines were clean. Everything was fine, and yet somehow that bothered him more than the wildest yard he'd ever seen. It had been years since he first picked up that camera and filmed himself mowing a stranger's lawn. Years later, he found his purpose in the sound of a mower engine and the sight of someone's eyes lighting up when they saw their home again. It was just a thing he did, a way to remind people that kindness still existed. But it blew up. The internet caught on, views rolled in, and suddenly a guy just trying to do good became the guy who saves people's yards. He didn't plan for any of it. You'd think that kind of success would feel good, that it'd fill you up. But the truth? Sometimes it empties you faster than anything else. Because once the world starts watching, it's hard to stop performing. He'd wake up every morning scrolling through comments. At first they were beautiful. People saying how much they cried and how they believed in humanity again. But the more people came, the louder the noise got. This one's not as good as your old videos.
We caught some. What we got here?
Seems staged. Guess you're running out of ideas. He'd read them at 2 a.m., staring at his phone's glow in the dark, trying not to care, but he did. Every single one cut a little piece out of him. He started overthinking every word, shot, in every edit. He was now chasing the version of himself that everyone wanted him to be. And little by little, the love started to fade. Not all at once, just slowly, like air leaking from a balloon. There were days he'd sit in his truck, engine running, camera beside him, just staring out the window. He'd drive past houses that needed help and feel nothing. That scared him more than anything. He used to cry when he saw how bad a yard had gotten, because he could imagine the pain that came with it, the depression, loss, and the weight that makes people stop caring for their homes. But now, he just felt tired. He didn't post for weeks and then months. He told his audience he was recharging, but really he was trying to remember who he was without all of this. One night when he couldn't sleep, he pulled up his very first video. The lighting was terrible, cuts were rough, and his voice cracked when he said, "Sometimes people just need to see someone care." He paused it right there, and for the first time in a long time, he cried because he missed himself. That version of him, the one who didn't care about angles or analytics, who just wanted to make someone's day better, he was still in there, buried under the pressure, but still breathing. The next morning, he decided to show up again. No script, drama, and no before and after miracles. Just him, a yard, and someone who needed help. He found a message from a woman who'd lost her husband, said she hadn't stepped outside in months. The grass had grown wild, waist high, full of weeds and silence. He showed up with his mower, but this time he didn't start filming right away. He just sat with her and listened. She told him how her husband used to cut the grass every Sunday. The sound of the mower was the rhythm of her weekends. When he died, she said the quiet was too loud. He mowed that yard slower than usual. Every pass felt like a prayer. When he was done, she stood on the porch and whispered, "It feels like he's home again." And Al, this man who'd spent the past few months doubting everything, felt something click in his chest. And it was peace. That's when he knew he wasn't done. But it wasn't easy coming back. The algorithm didn't care about redemption arcs. His views dropped, sponsors disappeared, and people forgot. And for a while it hurt, because for creators, silence can feel like failure. When the world stops clapping, you start wondering if you were ever good enough to begin with. But he kept going anyway. Quietly and consistently, he made videos for the few who still showed up simply because they missed humanity. And slowly, something started to change again. His audience started leaving different comments, softer ones. This feels real again. I don't care about the views, I just missed you. This is why I started watching in the first place. And maybe that's all he ever needed. Just a handful of hearts rather than a million eyes. One day he sat down in front of the camera with no script and said exactly what was on his mind. He talked about burnout, about how success can sometimes feel like a trap, how you can start measuring your worth by views and forget that behind every number is a person. He admitted that there were times he filmed kindness not out of love, but out of fear. Fear that people would stop caring if he didn't post something emotional enough. He laughed when he said, "I'm done chasing virals. I'm chasing meaning now." That video didn't blow up, but it meant more than any of his viral ones ever did. Because people could feel it, the rawness and honesty. It was like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. Now when Al uploads, it's different. His videos, they're slow and peaceful, sometimes even quiet enough to hear the birds in the background. He talks less about transformations and more about healing. He mows lawns, sure, but he also tells stories about grief, small kindnesses, and about rebuilding yourself one act at a time. There's this one scene that sticks out. Him standing in an empty yard after finishing a job, sunset spilling over his shoulders. He looks at the camera and just says, "This isn't about grass. It's about growth." That's the line that hit people the hardest, because it was more than just about lawns anymore. It was about life. And maybe that's what burnout teaches you if you survive it. That success isn't the point. You don't need to perform goodness for it to matter, and that sometimes showing up quietly is the loudest thing you can do. Because at the end of the day, all of this, the cameras, followers, and the edits, it's temporary. But kindness? That stays. What if the moment you stop chasing being seen is the moment you start being remembered? There's this thing about creators. People think it's all about creativity, but it's really about endurance, about waking up on the days you don't believe in yourself and doing it anyway. Putting your heart out there, knowing someone might tear it apart and still pressing upload. That's bravery in its rawest form. And that's what Al found again. Bravery. Sometimes he still doubts himself, checks the numbers, and still feels that little sting when a video underperforms. But now he reminds himself, the goal was never to be viral. The goal was to be valuable. And that's a whole different kind of success. When was the last time you did something meaningful without trying to make it memorable? So now when he ends his videos with "see you next week," he means it. He's showing up again because he wants to and because it matters. He once said, "This video is the calm before the storm." And it was. But the storm, it was changed, washing away everything fake and leaving behind something real. And as he looks out at another freshly cut yard, camera finally rolling again, he smiles, and that smile is a more human one. The one that says, "I'm still here, I still care." Because sometimes the biggest transformation isn't the one you film, it's the one you live through quietly. Drop your opinions in the comments section.